Welcome to the Business of Property podcast. I'm Stuart.
And I'm Simon.
We're both property people running our own businesses. This podcast is just us chatting, as we often do, about anything and everything property. So Simon, last episode, we were going to talk about rents. We didn't quite get there because we ended up getting quite deep into the loans that are available, SIBILs and bounce back loans. But one of the reasons people would be looking at those loans is potentially because of the lack of revenues coming through from rentals. And we talked about mortgage holidays as well. So the logical sort of next step for us was going to be talking about rent. So I guess first question is, how's everything looking on your portfolio rent-wise?
Currently, okay, I think is my sort of summary. I have, we mentioned in a previous episode that I was considering giving a blanket 10% rent forgiveness to my tenants just to try and help them out. It would eat into my buffer a bit in my property business.
Yeah, I was going to mention that,
but hopefully not too disastrously. And I thought it would be a nice gesture to try and help people out who I know some of whom are struggling a bit at this time. So I did do that, and everyone replied saying, "Thank you very much." I think I was going to say the tenants who are probably being affected most, but actually I'm not sure they are. They might just be the more communicative of them about their problems. But there are certainly a couple of tenants who I know are struggling, where they've had hours reduced and such things, and they were very appreciative, and they said thank you very much, and they did pay the full rent minus the 10%. And they are, yes, I mean, definitely that is good. But they going forwards, they are the ones that I'm sort of most concerned about. And certainly if the economic impact is unfortunate, I think they may be at risk from that sort of thing. We're in, well, we're not actually in, but we're close to the Gatwick area, and apparently that's going to be one of the hardest hit areas economically going forwards. I believe British Airways have said they're not reopening at Gatwick, and Virgin have also said they're not going to reopen Gatwick, at least for the foreseeable future, which is obviously going to cause a big change to the economy in this area. And while my tenants aren't directly working for Gatwick or for airlines there, it's obviously going to have a ripple effect.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely concerned going forwards, but right now it's okay. So you're in a very different market, both from the type of tenants, the geographic location, and the length of your contracts, and hence the turnover of them, because of course you're student letting mostly.
Yeah.
How have you found rents from your point of view in your portfolio?
So interestingly, the two residentials, so I've got two little flats, both of which have struggled. So unfortunately, one of them just was uncommunicative. I tried to call, agent tried to call. We didn't hear anything, but the rent hadn't been paid. And, we then found out that unfortunately they'd lost their job. So I think they're, trying to work that through. I think the big challenge is always, you just want to, you want to help basically. If we know these things, we can hopefully ease the burden by, letting them know. But so one isn't paying at the moment, and we haven't really got a plan for what's in play. I don't know if they're seeking universal credit or not. And then the other flat, same thing, although this tenant did let us know that they no longer had a job, and there's a sort of question mark over when that actually happened, but they've lost their job, which isn't great, and haven't paid a month. However, they now do have universal credit, so this month's payment has been made, and essentially I'll be working via the letting agent, how they plan to pay that moving forward. It's one of these where I think we just need to see where we are in the next 3 months. It's as we said previously.
Just out of interest, do you know what industries those people have lost jobs from?
One was a chef. So the one that we don't really know what the outcome is going to be. He was a chef in in a restaurant. Obviously, I was going to mention the name of it, but I thought I'll keep it anonymous.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah,
but it's a large chain of restaurant. And then the second one, interestingly, works for an estate agent, and in the local town. So I guess again they don't.
I'm surprised the estate agent didn't opt for furloughing rather than redundancy. There's obviously a wide range of potential directions the housing market could go when things start to head back towards normal. But I think quite a lot of people are expecting a little bit of a bubble because of pent up pressure and things. So I'm surprised they would want to be reducing their staff so proactively.
I think from experiencing this in corporate and other environments, and actually as you're talking, one of the things we did get from the other tenant was a letter from the employer, not directly for us, but just letter which demonstrated the situation. We haven't from this tenant actually, so I'm now just reflecting on whether or not the letting agent had asked for that. Because to answer your question though, I suppose some businesses just like the restaurant, they had furloughed, but then I think they just said, this isn't we're not coming back anytime soon, so they let people go. And it seems like some businesses make those decisions early for reasons, some reasons which are obvious, some not. But essentially, you've just made me think. Probably need to go back through the letting agencies to confirm these things. But so that's the residential side of things, and then on the student side, it was a bit both worrying in the sense of we just didn't know what was going to happen. For me, I'm generally okay. Even if the news is bad news, if I at least if I know the news, I know what the next step is. But the challenge we had was that working with the letting agent, we've got overall the company I work with managed thousands of rooms, of which my portfolio is a small percentage of that. Obviously, I speak with the agents at least once a week, sometimes more than that, and I have recently in the last week or so just been checking in, say how's it looking, what are the students doing, and kind of the word on the street, if you like, was things aren't looking bad. It feels like they're going to pay. This is what we're hearing. But the challenge is just a bit like when you're doing, qualitative research, people say one thing and then do another. So it was really kind of like we had to wait and see. And that news came out, as of this recording in the last week. And overall, it's been good. So of the rents, I would say, I haven't actually worked out the numbers explicitly, but more than 2/3, maybe 3/4, definitely more than 2/3, probably more than 3/4 of the rent has come through. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah. So I was really, pleasantly surprised and very happy, because that will really sort of help the business, survive at least the next couple of months. So that was really positive. We have had a couple of strange ones where, so one of the houses with foreign students said, essentially everyone barring one person said they'd left. So this is a property that I'm also going to develop and make it more design led. So I sent a builder around, and he said, I won't try his accent, but he said, "Stuart, are you sure the house is empty?" And I said, "Yeah, well, it should be." I said, "There's only one person left." Well, at this time there were supposed to be 3. He said, "Oh, you might like to know that there were 5 people all sleeping in beds," because he walked through, just through the hallways, and the doors were open. He just said, "Well, there were people sleeping in every bed, and there's 5 beds." So I then
something suspect going on there then.
Yeah, something. I said, well, unless their friends are very, very relaxed, unless there's one person who's remained has got 4 friends who just feel so comfortable in the house they're quite happy to sleep, a bit like Goldilocks, then it feels like all of the tenants are still there. So obviously spoke with the agent. He then visited. And then, they said, sorry, we're delayed. There's only one of us that's going to stay. Anyway, the long story short is they then kept repeating that only one of them is going to stay, sent the agent back round again. There were still 3 there. And the frustration for me was because I knew that there were foreign students and I know that this is a tough time. And I said to the agent, look, if they'll just tell you the truth, if they'll just say, look, we kind of feel a bit stuck because we're here as students, we can't return home yet, we don't have anywhere to go. My view is quite simply, okay, then let's work it out. But obviously you can stay in the property. I'm not, it's not, my business isn't about putting people on the street.
And it's not like you're going to get anyone else to replace them at this point in time.
No. And to be honest, I hadn't even thought that far, Simon. For me, it was just, well, look, I don't want people going out the streets again. If I think, okay, if this is one of my kids, what would I want to happen? I'd want them to be looked after. And so my view would have been, look, stay at the property for, a month, 4 to 6 weeks, and then let's see where we are in 4 to 6 weeks, and then we'll work together to find a solution. And if you can't pay, then I'll bite the bullet for now, and let's work out a plan. But the frustration was that they continually tried to pull the wool over people's eyes, and that's that makes it harder. So in which case I said to the agent, okay, we just need to. He's going to go back again, but he went back again. Sorry, and he said all the rooms now seem clear, and so I can now use that property and start developing that property. But yeah, so that's kind of it in the sort of nutshell of where I'm at. Is rents are looking quite good. The residential ones, actually, the smaller ones are the bigger challenge. The next challenge for us is we don't know, how it's going to look for September 2020. Although I do have a number of rooms which have already been taken. And anecdotally, we're hearing that, and this is quite an interesting point, is that because no one knows where the job market's going to be, or, people are talking obviously about recession, is therefore that the applications have increased because, people don't want to go out into the workforce if work's reduced. So I obviously quite like hearing that, but again, we can't plan for it at the moment in May, because we're still in this kind of stasis.
Yeah, just can't tell whether in-person teaching will actually be a thing in September. It's very, very difficult to plan anything at the moment.
The view is just on that point that universities probably will open in September, but initially for the tutors and the lecturers and the like. Mm-hmm. But they may well expect people to be moving locally, for the students to come. But may well start off remotely.
Interesting. Across your student rooms portfolio, you said that rent is down a quarter-ish. Is occupancy also down a quarter-ish, or have more people gone home but are still paying the rent, or is occupancy still high and people are just not paying the rent even though they're there? Do you have a feeling on that at all?
Well, it's a good question. Of the properties that I'm aware of, so obviously I've spoken at length about one of them, so that obviously the occupancy's gone down, but then so the rent. The one of them, I do believe they have left the property but have paid the rent. And my feeling is that has happened in a lot of cases. Again, I don't have the numbers from my portfolio, but from what I've seen and what I know of mine, and what from the letting agent I've spoken with, it does feel like a number of students have gone home, but are paying their rent, because at the moment there isn't any guideline to say that they can't pay their rents. It's like everything else. If we can, and if we're in a state to, I'm a tenant myself. I haven't considered not paying my rent because I can.
They entered that contract.
Yeah.
And that contract has a fixed length to it and fixed commitments on their behalf. So, strictly speaking, they should continue to pay the rent even if they're not actually using the property.
Yeah, and that's just the way it is. That's life, and that's how I feel. Unfortunately, there's always going to be a small percentage, and I've experienced it directly, that immediately wants to take advantage of a situation. But all the time, for me, whilst, and it was very similar with the with the mortgage payment holidays. Is a lot of us, my first thought would have been, oh great, that'd be quite nice, mortgage holiday. We've talked at length about that, but of course the mortgage holidays are there for if you're not getting rent, so or you can't afford to pay your own mortgage. So immediately I sort of dispelled that thought and said, okay, well that's just something we use if we need it.
I have heard from another landlord their thoughts on people being furloughed, that perhaps they shouldn't deserve any sympathy because they're still on 80% of their pay. They're not going out. They're not commuting. They're not paying for transport or petrol. They're not buying lunches from cafes. They're not drinking in pubs. And they were thinking that, well, if you work it out, chances are these people are now better off. So there's every reason they should still be paying their rent, and they really don't deserve any sympathy from landlords. I'm not entirely sure that's an accurate picture, but it's an interesting take, I think, on probably some people's situations. But I don't know how widespread that actual scenario is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in terms of the principles. I mean, I think in terms of sympathy, I think it's a challenge. I know people that have been furloughed. And again, we've had the conversations where, if someone said to me, I'm going to give you 80% of what you currently pay to not work. Do you know what? I'll take that. I would take it right now. Good. But, I'm obviously being flippant, and I'm very fortunate that I still have, some consultancy work to do. And it's not nice. I've got friends that have been furloughed and, they actually feel like they don't know what the future holds. And I think that for me is the key. So I would agree that for most people, those that are fortunate to have a continued job and may have been furloughed, that, disposable income has increased because, we're spending a lot less. In fact, in my household, the key spend now is grocery. Grocery spend's increased, but everything else, as you've said, there's zero commuting cost, petrol cost, because we're not going anywhere. We're not taking the kids to school. All the kids' clubs have ended. So actually, this is a time where we can, hopefully hunker down and build for the future. But on the furloughed point, I guess for me, where the sympathy does lie is that they don't know what the future holds, because once you've been furloughed, what does that mean for the business that employs you? We don't know. And like I say, it sounds great to be furloughed, and I say, I'd love to be furloughed. But then for me, there's a bit of ambiguity about what's going to happen in the future.
Just to pick up on kids' clubs, I wish ours had been stopped. They've all gone online. It seemed busier and harder to juggle schedules now than when we had to ship them around the place by car. But
that's too.
Just on furloughing, though, I think you're right that it could well be just a step towards redundancy. Right now, furloughing is free for businesses because it's being paid by the government. But at some point, that's going to cease, and those businesses then need to decide: do they actually have work for these people, or has the business carried on fine without them? And maybe it no longer needs them. And obviously it's going to vary from business to business and sector to sector what the answer to that is. But I agree, it's being on furlough puts a big question mark over your future job, which I think would be very worrying, even if financially speaking, you're not suffering too much at the time.
Yeah. And, we talk about it for us in our property businesses, albeit on a much smaller scale, but there's a number of things that I've offloaded to reduce the cost of the business, as we spoke about in the last episode. And because I've offloaded those costs, the likelihood is I won't be bringing those costs back in again, because once I've streamlined the business, and, we know how business works, it's the same, unfortunately, whether people like it or not. If you're a full-time employee, an FTE, you are a headcount, you are a cost to the business. And if revenues have dropped and business is uncertain, and like you say, it's already been a bridge to some of that, then, aside from other overheads in terms of, office space and so on, the headcount is also something that gets addressed. So,
exactly.
It's a concern.
I hope that a lot of people who are in this furloughed situation don't actually think, oh, I've got all this spare cash. I'll go out and buy a Ferrari I can't drive or something. But they do actually put some away and plan and take care for the future, which is going to be very unclear, I think.
Well, if there's one thing we've all got right now, even those of us with multiple children, it's a bit more time. And, for us, it's using that time wisely. Simon shakes his head. He can't see me. I do have a bit more. Even though my youngest is getting up at 5:15 in the morning, what I can
feel
do
for
now,
you there. My goodness, that's painful enough when my youngest gets up at 7:00 in the morning.
But because I was so busy before, I didn't have time to go out for a run. Now I can actually go out for a run, and that's my thinking time. But the point I was going to make, hopefully, with little windows of time, because we are at home most of the time, we can do a bit more planning and thinking about the future, as we've talked about, related to property.
Yeah, I think life is still very busy, and it's difficult to find spare time as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not quite sure what point I'm trying to make here. I think I personally am not getting that much extra time to do thinking and proper forward planning. But I think if you're furloughed, then you probably do get a bit more. Something else we were going to try and pick up in this episode, and we're very nearly out of time, if not perhaps actually out of time, was your flip project, which I think is, last we spoke about, was on hold because your builders had actually gone ill. So have they recovered? How is that progressing?
Fortunately they've recovered. I'm not sure whether or not they had the COVID or not. But the good news is they've recovered. They have, well, I say they've taken turns to come back, I believe, to the flat. And so this is just a flat we've got in South Croydon. Was due for completion in February 2020, but so we're a little bit behind. Obviously, we don't know where it's going to land in terms of the market, but yeah, just to answer your question, thanks for following up on that. We're about 95% done. We are, we're all there bar the shouting. Everything's in. We've put 2 new bathrooms in. We made a bathroom, refurbished the old one. We've put in really nice. So just a reminder, we've turned a 1-bed into a 2/3. It's very nice. We've done a really nice master bedroom with a sliding door to a sort of study/dressing area. So it's aimed at the sort of premium, more affluent, younger market in Croydon. And yeah, we're all there bar the shouting. We then just need to dress the property, and then fingers crossed to see what the market's going to do as and when the restrictions get lifted even further as expected.
Do you have a new ETA on that?
Well, on the completion, hopefully by the time this airs, the property will be finished, as in terms of the refurb will be finished, and we'll just be dressing it and getting it, giving it to an estate agent and looking to market.
I don't want to jinx anything, Stuart, but that's not the first time you've said that on one of these podcast episodes.
Well, you know me, I'm an eternal optimist. So we'll keep bludgeoning through.
I very much hope you're right this time.
Yeah,
I think
we'll see. I've seen videos of it. I haven't been there, but I got a video of it, of the rooms, and it's just a bit of clearing out to do. And just some tiling. So, you're right. You're absolutely right. But I think by the end of May, we should be done.
Are you planning to snag in person, or are you going to try and snag via video link? Have you got a plan for that?
I think we'll see. We'll see where we're at in the next few weeks. Ideally, I'd want to go and see the property. So, yeah, just need to see. Yeah, and certainly envisaging to do that at a social distance. But even if
you could do that entirely on your own, couldn't you? And just make a written snag list for the builders. I mean, it wouldn't have to be something you go through in person, although that kind of thing always is easier, isn't it? Because you can point at things and say, "Look, this is wrong," and stuff. But
Well, even if I go there, he opens a property, I can meet him outside, and I just go into the property because it is a purpose-built block of flats. But I can just go into the property, do my notes, and just come straight back out, at a 2 meter distance, and just,
Mate, fold your notes into a paper airplane and throw them at him.
And throw them at him, yeah. Or if they're really bad, just screw it up into a ball and throw it at him. Yeah.
Yes.
No, but either way, I'll go around and do my list and communicate it by whichever medium is feasible.
Good. Right, we are definitely over time now, so I think we'll draw it to a close and say that if you're interested to find out about any of our other episodes or the show notes for this one, please visit thebusinessofproperty.com. Otherwise, we will see you next week.